Have you ever felt completely and totally stuck? Like you're just spinning your wheels but getting absolutely nowhere? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea that suggests the solution isn't at all what you think it is. Let's get into why you're not actually stuck.
Right? It's a feeling we all know. That sense that you're in quicksand, that you're just stuck in the mud, unable to move forward. You know, deep down you want to get somewhere else, but taking that next step just feels impossible. So what's really going on here?
Okay, here's where we get to the absolute core of it. Most of us think we're stuck because we don't have enough clarity. We tell ourselves, if I just had a better plan, if I just knew exactly what to do, then I could move. But what if that's completely wrong? This whole idea flips that on its head and says the problem isn't a lack of clarity, it's a problem of attention.
This constant search for the perfect plan, this obsession with figuring it all out first, we can call that the clarity trap. It's this kind of counterintuitive idea that the very hunt for clarity might be the exact thing keeping you right where you are.
So let's just say it plainly. You're not actually confused. That feeling of being stuck, it doesn't come from some foggy path ahead. It comes from where your mind is putting its focus. So if it's all about attention, what in the world are we paying attention to? Well, the answer lies in the incredible and often unnoticed power of the stories we tell ourselves. I mean, think about it. Your mind is a 24/7 story generator. It is constantly churning out narratives, making up explanations, and predicting what's going to happen next. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's just what a mind does. It's a totally natural, nonstop process. Do any of these sound familiar? You've got the stories about delay. I'll start tomorrow. Then there are the stories about risk. Oh man, what if I fail? What are people going to think? And of course, the classic stories about needing more certainty. I just need to do a little more research. Then I can start.
And this, right here, is the most important distinction. The thoughts themselves are harmless. They're like clouds passing in the sky. The problem only starts when we reach up, grab one of those clouds, and decide, this is true, this is reality. The issue isn't the story, it's the belief we give it. And here's what happens next. Attention is like fuel for these stories. When you focus on a thought like, what if I fail? You're basically feeding it. And it grows from this light, fleeting little idea into something that feels heavy and solid and real. It literally gains weight in your mind. But the process doesn't just stop there. When you keep feeding a story over and over, it doesn't just feel real in the moment. It can actually change how you see yourself. It goes from being just a random thought to becoming a core part of your identity. Let's walk through how this happens. It starts so innocently, right? Step 1, a story just pops into your head. I'm not good enough for that. Then, step 2, you give it your attention. You start to chew on it, you replay it. Step 3, because of all that attention, the story gets heavier and feels true. And finally, step 4, after you run that loop enough times, it becomes an identity. I am a person who just isn't good enough. And the end result of all this is what you could call a quiet habit of seeing limitation everywhere. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's more like this subtle filter that you start seeing the whole world through, a filter that is constantly pointing out all the reasons why you can't do something. And that brings us full circle. This internal habit of focusing on limitation, that is what's really stopping you. It's not an external problem. I mean, the next step could be staring you right in the face, but your attention is completely locked on the story that says you can't take it.
Okay, so if that's the trap, how do you get out? Well, the solution is surprisingly simple. It all starts with this one, small but incredibly powerful mental move, the shift to noticing.
This is it. This is the whole key. You don't fight the story. You don't argue with it. You just notice it. The second you can see a thought as just a story that your mind is telling, instead of getting swept away by it, its power over you just starts to dissolve. So let's be really clear about what noticing means. It's just passive observation. You see the thought show up. You watch it tell its little tale. And then you watch it fade away, all by itself. You don't engage. You don't try to push it out. You just let it be, almost like you're watching a car drive down the street. So what happens when you start to practice the simple act of noticing? Well, you stop desperately chasing clarity, and instead, you create the space for it to just show up on its own.
And I know this is completely counterintuitive. We're all taught to solve our problems by thinking harder, by really grinding it out. But the argument here is that the exact opposite is true. Clarity isn't something you can wrestle into existence.
I mean, just look at the contrast here. The old way, solving, is all about effort. It feeds the story of struggle and surprise, it keeps you stuck. The new way, noticing, is all about ease. By just withdrawing your attention, you starve the story, and that's what allows movement to happen naturally.
And maybe that's the most freeing idea of all. You don't need to fix your thoughts. You don't need to solve the feeling of being stuck. There isn't some deep, complex problem here that requires a brilliant solution. The only thing that's required is a simple shift in your attention.
So I'll just leave you with this question to experiment with. The next time you feel that familiar pull of being stuck, just ask yourself, what would happen if you didn't try to figure anything out? Just for a moment. Just let go. Stop feeding the story. Just notice. And see what happens next.